Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason. I am in downtown St. Louis in a very desolate, creepy area. I mean, there's like nobody here. I'll explain more about that. But this is another one of those stroll through series, my sixth one in St. Louis alone. And this one's going to be a really simple one because I'm basically just going to be walking down the St. Louis riverfront. I'll show you where I'm at in a second. Obviously, you'll see a big wall behind me. We'll see a few markers and memorials, and of course the arch, and it's Laclede's Landing, and some battered down areas. So, all right, let's get this tour started. Okay, so yes, that is a wall. I thought by now they'd open this. I don't even know why it's there. I'll probably put it on the screen once I find out. But that over there is the Horseshoe Casino. Used to be a Lumiere place. That took a part of the landing away. I was originally going to start at the Biddle Street parking lot, which is behind that wall, and where that Ashley Street Powerhouse building was. That was my first choice, but obviously I can't go there because it's all, I mean, I could easily go around and waste a little bit of time, but I'm not going to do that. Maybe in some other video. But that building over there, I don't even know if it's still being in use, but at one time it did power the whole city of St. Louis. And behind that, not too far, is Rootwad Park, which I did a video on. So this is Riverfront Trail. This is where I'll be doing all the walking. We're going to be seeing the ruins of formerly the President Casino. And then right over there is some of the parts of the skyline. Oops, almost tripped. Like the US Bank building, and then that over there is the arch. It's kind of cool how it's hidden in the clouds. So it looks like they redone the whole trail, or they repaved it. But how often is it being used? That's my question. And obviously nobody's allowed to drive on the street because they got it blocked off from Laclede's Landing. That is, by the way, Leonor K Sullivan Boulevard. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. Death zone, no trespassing. Okay, but yes, that is a former walkway to the President Casino. Those blue fences right there. I'm not trespassing. I mean, if I climbed over those fences, then yes, I would be. So a little history about the President Casino. Now, it was on the SS Admiral. It opened in 1994. I think it was one of the very first in Missouri, St. Louis, but I don't know that for sure. But it closed in 2010. I don't know when the ship docked away. I had never been there. I was old enough to gamble in the late 2000s, but I never made it over here. And that was by the time, you know, most casinos were going on land. But yeah, I mean, I remember a year or two ago, this was like the city's homeless camp, and I'm glad it's not that way anymore. But just looking at this is just, wow, unreal. I think my parents have been here a few times, but I don't know that for sure. Maybe my grandparents. Look at those benches, that ticket booth. Wow, it's just so sad. And of course, I'm not gonna climb over the fence like a typical YouTube explorer would do. I'm just an observer, that's all. So yeah, the President Casino, it was only open for 16 years. Very brief, you know, and I guess in today's terms. So along the way, we're going to go under at least 3 bridges. The first one is going to be the Martin Luther King Bridge, which I'll explain some history about. Okay, so this is the MLK Bridge, or Martin Luther King Bridge, whichever you want to call it. In 1951, it opened as the Veterans Memorial Bridge. And then after the civil rights leader was shot in 1968, it was voted in by the city of St. Louis that it was renamed Martin Luther King Bridge. At one time, it carried US Route 40 and US Highway 66 That was from 1955 to 1957. It was also a toll bridge. By 1987, however, it was voted by the government, yeah, stop collecting tolls. And did you also know that that technically the Missouri half of this bridge, which ends right at the middle of the Mississippi, is technically named Missouri Highway 799. Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, even until I started doing research for this. That's just so weird. Yeah, Missouri Highway 799. It would make it the highest number in the state route. What do you call it? The state route list. There's no state routes over 800 or over. But there are no signs, which is kind of funny. But according to Wikipedia and MoDOT, yeah, it is true. For 0.5 miles is State Route 799. I'm sorry, I just can't get over that. That's just so bizarre. It may have been de-signed though. I don't know. But yeah, still looking at these old ruins of the property of President Casino. The cobblestones, the stairways. And I don't remember where the Belle of St. Louis was. Now, I do remember the McDonald's boat was more farther that way, and there was also a Burger King boat at one time. Okay, so that started with Dr. Martin Luther King Drive underneath the bridge there. I've shown you that sculpture, I think, in my Stroll Through St Landing part. Now we're going under the bridge, and here's a little sign put up by Mississippi River Greenway. Yeah, Leclede's Landing, well, it's technically that way, but Metrolink train, yeah, that's where the Eads Bridge is. Gateway Arch, helicopter tours, riverboat cruises, and Bike St. Louis. Okay, well, I'm gonna get closer to the river and just kind of chill or go fishing or whatever. I mean, there are stairways that can take you down there. They are kind of not uneven, but they're big steps, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, a lot of birds down there. But moving on. We are now approaching the Eads Bridge, which I did a separate video on last year. And that over there, if you can see it, that's the Catherine Ward Bird Garden. And that's a classic Leclede's Landing sign. I don't even want to know how updated that map is over there. Okay, I don't know what this sign is. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's basically a wayfinding sign. Again, if you want to chill at the river, hey, there you go. Sometimes people just kind of unwind there, and I'm guilty of doing that. But yeah, the Eads Bridge has so much history to it. I mean, it's not even funny. I mean, it is one of the first to go across the Mississippi River. Not the first, one of the first. And it's been around for 151 years now. Last year they celebrated its 150th birthday. But, I mean, people still drive on it, and that's where I went on the Metrolink. Oh, it feels so good underneath here. Getting a little peek at the arch over there in the flood wall. Now, if you want access to the Gateway Arch National Park, I'm actually standing on it right now, but if you do want to explore the gardens that have been remodeled 10 years ago, then yeah, definitely go that way. It's a nice, neat walking path, and it gets kept up pretty well. And now here is the famous Captain's Return statue. This baby weighs 3.5 tons. It is part of the Gateway Arch National Park. That is Lewis and Clark returning home in 1806. There's actually a marker there I'll read. And that is their dog Seaman, or Seaman, sorry. And somebody put a gummy bear in there. This was done by Harry Weber, the renowned sculptor who's done a lot of works in St. Louis. He's done the famous Stan Musial one outside Busch Stadium. He's done the statue of Chuck Berry, among many others. The statue actually used to be over there, over by the Eads Bridge, but it was moved because it was more in the water. But it was temporarily removed in 2014, and then 2016 it came back, and it has a new home right here on the riverfront. All right, and here's what the plaque says. The Captain's Return. At noon on September 23rd, 1806, the Lewis and Clark expedition ended on the St. Louis riverfront after a journey along the Missouri River to its headwaters, a passage of the Rocky Mountains, and a descent to the Pacific coast via the Columbia River. Returning by roughly the same route, they arrived in St. Louis after 2 years, 4 months, and 9 days of exploring the lands and encountering the peoples of the American West. And that's just the credits and the donors. And a quote by T.S. Eliot, but yeah. And that's where the helicopter tours are. Now, I have never done a helicopter tour of St. Louis. I don't even know how much it is, but I mean, I imagine it's, I honestly have no idea, depending on who you're with and everything. But yeah, they're always open. All right, here is a concrete marker. It looks brand new for 1923, but this monument is erected to commemorate the landing of the founders of the city of St. Louis, Pierre Laclede and companions, in the year 1764. Erected by the St. Louis General Assembly of Knights of Columbus, October 12th, 1923. Let me see what it says on the other side. Nothing. Okay. Alright, I just thought I'd come check it out. And don't forget that this was all, I mean, at times, yes, this can be underwater. These are flood ones. These are like flood charts, I guess. I forgot what you call them, but okay, so 1892, this was at 36 feet. Wow. 1983, 39 feet. So basically, if I went back in time, I would be up to my chest in water. I think there's something on the other side too. Oh yeah, 1951, 40.28 feet, and then 1979, 37 feet. Wow, that is so amazing. And these are the great stair steps that take you to the Gateway Arch National Park. There's that sign. It wasn't until 2019 it was named the Gateway Arch National Park. It was signed by President Trump. It was originally known as the Jefferson Memorial Expansion National Park. Here is something for in recognition of Honorary Leonor K. Sullivan. She was a U.S. Congresswoman, 3rd Congressional District in St. Louis, 1953 to 1977. Wharf Street is renamed in her honor, and that of course is this right here, for outstanding services. She led legislation in Congress for construction of Gateway Arch, Jefferson National Expansion Memorial Park, the St. Louis flood wall, and authored bills to keep passenger boats afloat, the Delta Queen, the Mississippi Queen, and the Water Transportation Safety Law. And this was put up on June 16th, 1983. And now here's a memorial of Robert E. Lee, engineer the St. Louis Harbor, 1837 to 1841. His engineering genius was responsible for moving the Mississippi River channel back to the St. Louis shore, preserving the city as a river port. It was erected here in 1977. Very interesting stuff. And for arch visitors, there's a food stand if you're hungry. Actually, there's a couple stands. I may just give you a lemonade. Alright, so that's the riverboat cruises. Anybody who wants to go on there. And here's some more flood watermarks. This is 1947, up to my head. Wow, I would have drowned. October 1st, 1993, 38.91 feet. 1982, December 7th, 39 feet. And then down here, 1851, 36.6 feet. Wow. All right, so that is the Poplar Street Bridge, which carries Interstates 55 and 64. And that's where Highway 44 used to end. Story for another time. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of traffic, and I think for now I'm just gonna go ahead and stop right here. There's really nothing that way. I mean, yeah, there's a flood wall, but the trail does go on, which I featured in a different episode, the stroll through the Shoto neighborhood, which is under construction at this time. There are no markers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and sign off. All right, thanks for watching. Peace out.